So there's been that picture of that U.S. senator going around online who, to me, and a lot of others, is clearly some kind of monster or something. People have been calling it a demon, but it may be, I'm not really sure. I guess it could be, because the thing about demons is they're incorporeal. They don't have bodies. So usually to interact with the space here, they have to be taking over a body to do so. And it's pretty easy to get bodies. The other day, yeah, I should just fucking call this channel because I said but yeah, this what they do is they move around on what sometimes is referred to as dirty energy, low vibrational stuff, depression, sadness, anger, fear. A lot of homeless end up in this situation, drug addicts, anything that where you have a low vibration, you become susceptible to becoming like a vessel. Yeah, give me a minute here. I figured to come out early in the morning because there's less people around and less bullshit, but I just had to start this video like 4 different times because I had that dude there with the garbage thing rolling along, being super loud, and whenever I stopped, he'd stop, and whenever I'd move ahead, he'd move ahead, and it was like, you know, I know he didn't mean to do it, but it was a pain in the ass either way. See, here's the thing, you see all these people cross the street. If I fucking cross the street, let's just see. Let's see what happens. Oh, good. Okay, good. Yeah. See, I've gotten jaywalking here a lot of times because I'm the right kind of guy to get tagged for that. I'm the right kind of guy to get tagged for a lot of things. I'm not gonna go into why, but anyway, yeah. They need to take over a body in order to interact with us. And so what they do is when you're low enough frequency by, you know, whatever you have going on, like addiction and your emotions, maybe you're angry, whatever the case, it happens when you're, you know, on drugs. A lot of times, like, it used to happen to me when I used to drink really heavily back in the day. When you'd get blackout drunk, I don't know if anyone's ever experienced that. Maybe you have. And then the next day, your friends are like, dude, you did this, you did that. And you're walking and you're talking and you're like functioning, but you don't have any memory of it. And you're kind of just running on autopilot. Not even that, because you're talking and having conversations. And it was always the most bizarre thing to me. And I could never get a satisfactory explanation about why that was. You know, you'll find stuff that explains how it impairs your short-term memory. But it never made sense to me, like he even explained. I mean, when it comes to a lot of that stuff, I need the brainlet explanation. But even the more advanced kind of explanations, I don't know. It was just one of those weird things. It's like dreams, you know. There's a lot of info about it, but none of it's really that great. But so what happens in the blackouts, what I believe is happening, is you become very low vibrational, and entities can slip in. Because every time I would, and this isn't an excuse for bad behavior, because you know, but what would happen is you become like a taxi for these things. They just jump right in, and you know, they control you. That's why it's called spirits, because that they just jump right in. Those lower vibrational frequencies, sometimes called dirty energy. It's how they get in and out of people. That's why homeless people are a perfect target for, you know, demons. And that's really what it is. Like, you see a lot of homeless people walking down the street, screaming about stuff, talking to no one. Now, yeah, there is the LARPing thing. We get that here a lot, where it's just people looking for attention. And people are like, wow, they're crazy. It's like, no, they're not crazy. I've been locked up with real crazy people, and they're very quiet. They don't want any attention, and they want to be left alone. They're not, you know, trying to do this stuff here. But it's not always people looking for attention. There's a demonic possession, and it's like demons are everywhere. I've spoken about him before, but there's a YouTuber named Roger in KC, where he would put a certain photo editing software on top of pictures, and he would be able to show you and point out the demonic entities on it. And there's one specific episode that always sticks in my mind, where he had a area of California, a photograph of California out by the Hollywood sign, and he used this technique on that and just drew over where all the shapes of these things are, and they're all sort of humanoid in shape for some of them, and they look real creepy. I'll try to find it, and if I can, I'll link it onto the yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll fucking link it below. I'll put a link to it. So they're all around all the time. I was positing that perhaps you have one on board with you most of the time. Hey, little guy, they're gonna come over and fucking talk to me, little bird. But they're always around. There's this other great video that was making the rounds a couple years ago, and if I find that, I'll put that up there too. But it was a guy that was filming a homeless man on a train, on a commuter train. He was filming him because he was just talking to the air, sort of acting a little crazy. And for whatever reason, the guy's like, oh, I'm going to film this guy. And when he brought it home and looked back at it, you can clearly see that there's two beings around him. One sitting behind him, but he wasn't sitting behind him. He was like kind of in between. He was in between the wall and the seat, like right over his shoulder, his head. And another one was sitting next to him by the window. So you can pick these guys up on camera. The only time you really see them is in person, is if you're looking into their dimension. Because I've had that happen before to me years ago, before I knew anything about this stuff, during the equinox. I was with a friend of mine, and we were in my shop. I owned a comic store, one of a couple I owned back then, and it also doubled as my living space. I had an apartment in the back, and in the front was the shop. And the shop had these big windows in the front that you could see onto the street. And we're in there one night. It was Easter. It was Easter night, which is, I think that was like the summer equinox, or it coincided with one of the equinoxes. I think I'm using the right word, equinox. But anyway, they say when on those nights, there's one in fall and there's one in spring, that the division between the dimensions or the planes or whatever is thinner, so you can see stuff, you can look into them, they can look into you, but this happens randomly. So we're sitting there just hanging out, and this car comes pulling up super fast, like, and jams on his brakes, like right in front of the shop. And we have full windows so we can see, you know. And we thought it was one of our friends, because people drop by all hours. This is like maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, and the car pulls up and it just slams on its brakes, like right in front of the shop windows. So we both look out and we're like, who the fuck is that? You know, we thought it was just one of our maniac friends. It was just this violent boosh like that. So we start looking at the car, and I look and I see what appears to be a woman sitting in the front seat near the driver's, on the driver's side. And it's her by herself in the car, and it looks like a female Robert Smith, like just this crazy mop of black hair, and looked like what black makeup around the eyes. The eyes were like coal black, but they had eyeballs in them, or some. It looked like real eyes, and bone white complexion. Couldn't tell what they were wearing because I was just transfixed by the eyes. And I'm looking like, who the fuck is that? And I'm looking, and every time she would look at me, and she was kind of smiling, like kind of making this, like this goofy face. And I'm like, who is that? And I'm trying to figure out which one of our friends is. And I started to feel this dread. And I've never felt anything like this before, even to this day. And I've had way crazy, well, not way crazier encounters, but I've interacted with demons and different things since then. But this is in 1996. So I'm like, I'm looking at it, and my friend is there, and he's like, who the fuck is that? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, I can't look at it. Who is that? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, and he started freaking out, and so was I. It seemed like it was probably under a minute that this went on. But I felt like when she looked at me, she was looking right through me, or like right into me. And he was having the same experience, and he's like freaking out. I'm freaking out. We're laughing and we're crying at the same time. Like, what the fuck, dude? He's like, that's crazy. What is that? What is that? And she kept positioning her head like to the sides, looking like, you know, her head would go sideways, but she'd still stare at me. And I kept having to look away. And he's like, I can't look at her. I'm like, I know. And he's like, what the fuck is... So we were freaking out. You know, neither of us had ever experienced anything like that before. And so at one point during this, I think I said to him, I'm like, I'm going over there. And I started walking down the stairs from where we were to go to the front of the store, to go to the front of the windows. And it wasn't like I wanted to go there. I was kind of being pulled there. It was fucking crazy. Like I felt like I was being drawn in to where she was. And I kept averting my eyes so that I didn't look at her, because when you met her eyes, it was like the eye of Sauron. It was like she looked right into your soul. And it was beyond fear. Like I can't explain the emotion. But we were hysterical, laughing, crying, freaking out. He didn't move. He was frozen. I didn't want to move, but I felt like I was being pulled toward her, you know? And I just started walking toward the front door. And when I got right up to the door that looks onto where the car is, suddenly she vanished. And in the front seat was my upstairs neighbor and his girlfriend. And it looked like they were like just talking. She vanished, they appeared. And I looked back from the door and I'm like, dude, it's just the guy from upstairs. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's just the guy from upstairs. And I'm like, come over here and see. He goes, I'm not going over there, you know. And I'm like, just no, they're gone, they're gone. And then the door opened and they came outside and they came out of the car and just walked up to the apartment upstairs. It was kind of crazy. And yeah, I can't, I've never had an experience like that before. I've never been in an emotional sort of state like that. It was the scariest thing that had ever happened to me, but it was like beyond regular fear. Indescribable. So we're both kind of freaked out. The next day, we're trying to explain it to everyone, and no one kind of, you know, they're like, what are you guys doing? Smoking weed? We're like, yeah, but that has nothing to do with it. And it doesn't, you know. We saw some kind of thing. We saw into where she was. We saw into her dimension. And she saw us, and she was looking right at us. And, like, you couldn't lock eyes with her, because when you did, it made you feel, it's weird. I don't even know how to really describe it. In the experiences I've had since with these things, I've always talked to them in the form of someone else's body. That's a whole nother story. The good thing about this experience is that my friend was with me, because and the major one since, I was always with someone too. And it's not good in a sense so that you can, you know, so if someone doesn't believe me, I can talk to them. It's more that if I didn't have someone with me, I think my mind would have convinced myself that it didn't happen, you know. I think it would have been something like that. But yeah, I mean, even thinking of it now, it's just kind of freaky. Like I don't know. I don't know what that was, and I've never experienced anything else like that before, you know, or since. I mean, or since, and I have had supernatural experiences since then, mainly in the last 4 or 5 years, which is what got me on the track of all this stuff. But yeah, real crazy shit. So that picture, getting all the way back to that's floating around the internet, and I'll post it up here so you can see what I'm talking about. Basically, it's a senator. She's like a black woman. I think I forget what state she's from, but it's the way she was holding her head. Looks like she's looking down, and she had a face diaper on. And when people look at the demon picture, they draw out like, no, see the mask, see the, you know, this is her sunglasses. But it's very much like the that dress from a couple years ago. Do you see a yellow dress or do you see a blue dress? It's very much like that. Like, some people look at it and they see a lady with their head down. But I mean, I can't see it in the picture. I bet people draw it out online, like, oh, see, this is her head, this is the mask, yada yada. But I look at it and I see like a fucking demon. I don't know what that is. There are a lot of guys that know more about. It could be a reptilian kind of person. But as far as I know, an actual demon. Demons need a human body to be in. Unless because of the photography or the camera, what we're seeing. And I don't know. I'll put it up there and you can look for yourself and see what you think. This is a really nice day here, by the way. It's windy, which I love. Not too sunny yet. It's about like 8 a.m. here. I'm never down the beach. I'm always at the beach, so like a lot of my videos I do when I'm walking around the street, you know, all those buildings I'm walking by, right behind them is this ocean. Like, if you look up here, those buildings there are the ones I'm always walking around. So it looks like I'm in just any city, you know, well, not any city, USA. It is a bit different. There's a lot more greenery here in Hawaii. They can't stop it from coming up through the cracks. You know, God will always overtake man's creations, of course. But yeah, the reason I don't come down here more often in videos is because it's usually kind of a pain in the ass. It's a lot of tourists here later in the day. This is probably the best time to come down here. When I first moved here, I used to go swimming at like 4 in the morning. And I stopped doing that. I don't know why. I don't. So I don't come down here very often, and I should. Yeah, living at the beach is pretty nice, you know. I'm very, very lucky, very blessed that I've ended up here. It's where I'm supposed to be, you know. All right, I'm gonna go for a walk. But yeah, demons. It's a crazy world. Don't blame the teacher, blame the school.